Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The Toronto Blue Jays are sitting on a powder keg of potential right now, and what I'm about to reveal could blow your mind. While everyone's been obsessing over free agency signings and who's wearing what uniform this season, something absolutely massive has been brewing behind the scenes. We're talking about a trade opportunity so juicy, so perfectly aligned with what the Jays need, that it almost seems too good to be true. And the best part? This could happen sooner than you think. Let me paint you a picture. The Blue Jays have already been busy this offseason, making moves, signing players, trying to build a contender. But here's the thing. There's still a gaping hole in this roster, a missing piece that could transform this team from playoff hopeful to legitimate World Series threat. And according to recent reports and some serious buzz circulating around the baseball world, the most likely path forward isn't through free agency anymore. It's through a trade. A big, bold, franchise-altering trade. Now I know what you're thinking. Who could possibly be available that would move the needle that much? Well, buckle up, because the name I'm about to drop is going to get your heart racing. We're talking about Cruz of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yes, that Cruz. The 6'7", 240-pound absolute physical specimen who can do things on a baseball field that make your jaw drop. And here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just some wild speculation or wishful thinking. There's actual smoke here, real smoke, and I'm going to walk you through exactly why this makes so much sense that it's almost poetic. Let's rewind the clock for a second. Back in July of last year, reports started surfacing that the Pittsburgh Pirates were fielding trade calls on Cruz. Multiple teams were sniffing around, trying to see what it would take to pry this talented young player away from Pittsburgh. The Pirates, being the Pirates, were actually listening. They didn't pull the trigger, but they were open to it. That's crucial information because it tells us something important about their mindset. Pittsburgh has a long, well-documented history of trading away their young stars before they get too expensive. It's practically their business model at this point. They develop talent, get a few good years out of them, then ship them out before they have to pay market value. It's frustrating for their fans, but it's predictable. And that predictability creates opportunities for teams like the Blue Jays. Fast forward to now, and the whispers are getting louder. Social media is buzzing with Blue Jays fans connecting the dots. And honestly, the more you think about it, the more sense it makes. One fan tweeted that they had a feeling the Blue Jays would trade for someone like Cruz, someone who could be a really good hitter with a competent hitting coach. And guess what? The Blue Jays have one of the best hitting coaches in baseball right now in Dave Popkins. This guy worked absolute magic last year, transforming approaches, unlocking potential, and getting career years out of multiple players. If there's anyone who could take a talented but inconsistent hitter like Cruz and turn him into a superstar, it's Popkins. But let's talk about what we're actually getting here. Cruz is coming off a down year. There's no sugarcoating it. A 676 OPS isn't going to win any awards. But here's where it gets fascinating. When you dig into the underlying numbers, the peripherals, you see a completely different story. This guy is in the 100th percentile for exit velocity. That means he hits the ball harder than literally every other player in Major League Baseball. 100th percentile. When he makes contact, he absolutely demolishes baseballs. The problem? He strikes out. A lot. He's one of the worst strikeout hitters in the game. But here's the thing. That's a fixable problem, especially with the right coaching. Think about it this way. You've got a player with elite, generational bat speed and power. You've got someone who posted a 100th percentile arm strength rating, meaning he's got one of the best arms in baseball. You've got a guy who stole 38 bases last year, adding a dimension of speed that the Blue Jays desperately lack. And all of this is wrapped up in a 27-year-old package that hasn't even scratched the surface of his potential. This is the definition of a buy low opportunity. His value has never been lower because he just had a down year, but his tools, his raw ability, those haven't gone anywhere. A smart organization looks at this situation and sees gold. Let me break down why this screams Blue Jays acquisition. First, Toronto loves taking chances on players with high upside who might be underperforming. They did it with Andrés Giménez, a trade nobody saw coming. They have a track record of identifying talent that other teams are giving up on and extracting value. Second, the defensive versatility is perfect. Cruz started his career as a shortstop, moved to center field, and could easily slide to left field for the Jays. Imagine an outfield with Cruz's arm strength and speed. That's elite defense right there, the kind that saves runs and wins close games. Third, and this is huge, Dave Popkins has shown he can fix hitters. If anyone can get Cruz to cut down the strikeouts while maintaining that elite power and speed, it's him. Now let's talk about the financial side, because this is where it gets even more interesting for Toronto. The Pirates are notoriously cheap. They don't spend money on extensions. They don't hand out big contracts. They operate on a shoestring budget compared to other teams, and that creates pressure to move guys before they get expensive through arbitration. Cruz is still under team control, but his price tag is going to rise. For Pittsburgh, there's a calculation to be made. Do they keep him and hope he bounces back? Or do they cash in now while they can still get value? History suggests they'll cash in, and that's exactly the window the Blue Jays need to exploit. Here's where the trade proposals start getting fun. One framework that's been floated online involves Nathan Lukes, Eric Lauer, and Jake Bloss going to Pittsburgh for O'Neill Cruz. Now, on paper, that might seem light for the Jays, and you're probably right. But it's a starting point, a framework to build on. Let's say you swap out Eric Lauer for another prospect. Maybe throw in Jose Barrios if Pittsburgh wants MLB-ready starting pitching, and add a top-5 organizational prospect like Johnny King. Now you're talking about a package Pittsburgh might seriously consider. Nathan Lukes had a better year than Cruz did last year, so you're giving them an MLB-ready outfielder. Barrios gives them rotation help. And a top prospect sweetens the deal. For the Jays, you're giving up some depth, but you're getting a potential game-changer in return. Would Toronto do that deal? That's the million-dollar question. You're talking about trading away significant pieces, including a top-5 prospect and an established starter in Barrios. But here's the counter-argument. The Blue Jays are in win-now mode. They've made aggressive moves this offseason because they believe they can compete right now. If you genuinely think Cruz can be unlocked by Popkins, if you believe he can be a 35 home run, 40 stolen base guy who plays elite defense, then you absolutely make that trade. You're betting on talent, on upside, on your ability to develop players. And let's be honest, when has playing it safe ever won championship? The beauty of this potential trade is that it addresses multiple needs simultaneously. The Jays lack a true power-speed combination player. They need outfield depth and defensive versatility. They could use someone who brings a different element to the lineup, someone opposing pitchers have to game plan for differently. Cruz checks all those boxes. Sure, he's a high strikeout guy, but you know what? That's acceptable if he's giving you elite defense, 40 steals, and the potential for 30-plus home runs. The modern game values those plus tools, and Cruz has multiple plus tools. Let's also address the elephant in the room. Some people are going to say this is too risky, that Cruz has too many holes in his game, that he's not worth the prospect capital. To those people, I'd say this: every trade involves risk. Every player acquisition is a gamble to some degree. But the teams that win championships are the ones willing to take calculated risks on high upside players. The Dodgers do it, the Rays do it. The smart organizations identify market inefficiencies and exploit them. Right now, O'Neill Cruz represents a massive market inefficiency. His value is depressed because of one down year, but his tools are still elite. That's exactly the kind of bet you should be making. Consider the alternative paths for Toronto. They could pursue other outfielders on the trade market, but who's actually available? Brendan Donovan was rumored to be in play, but recent reports from John Morosi indicate the Cardinals will only move him if they're blown away by an offer. That means you're going to pay a premium, possibly more than he's actually worth. Lars Nootbaar is another name that's been mentioned, but again, you're not getting a discount there. The free agent market is basically picked clean at this point. So where does that leave you? It leaves you looking at trades, specifically trades where you might have some leverage because the other team is motivated to sell. Pittsburgh being willing to listen on Cruz last July tells us they're at least open to moving him under the right circumstances. That's leverage. That's an opportunity. And if you're Ross Atkins in the Blue Jays front office, you have to be making that phone call. You have to be exploring what it would take. Even if you don't end up pulling the trigger, you owe it to your fan base to at least investigate whether this is doable. Because if it is doable, if you can get O'Neill Cruz without completely gutting your farm system, you have to seriously consider it. Let's talk about the upside scenario here, because it's absolutely tantalizing. Imagine Cruz comes to Toronto, starts working with Dave Popkins, and they find a way to shave even 5% off his strikeout rate. You're still getting a guy who hits the ball harder than anyone in baseball, but now he's making slightly more contact. Those extra balls in play, combined with his speed, turn into hits. Suddenly that batting average climbs from the low 200s into the 250s or 260s. The power is already there, so now you're looking at a 260 hitter with 35 bombs and 40 steals. That's an all-star. That's a guy who finishes in MVP voting. That's a franchise cornerstone. Even if the development doesn't go perfectly, even if he remains a high strikeout player, you're still getting elite defense and game-changing speed. The Blue Jays don't have anyone on their current roster who can consistently steal 40 bases. That dimension alone changes how opposing teams have to pitch to your lineup. It creates chaos on the base paths, forces defenses to shift their attention, and opens up opportunities for the hitters around him. There's value in that. Real tangible value that shows up in run differential, even if it doesn't always show up in traditional stats. Now, I want to address something important here. Some of you are probably thinking this sounds too good to be true, that there's no way Pittsburgh would actually trade Cruz, especially not for a package built around prospects and Jose Barrios. But here's the thing. The Pirates have done this before, over and over again. They traded Garrett Cole before he became a Cy Young winner. They traded Tyler Glasnow and Austin Meadows for basically nothing. They've let countless talented players walk or get traded because they refuse to spend money. It's not a question of whether they'll trade Cruz eventually, it's a question of when and for what return. The Blue Jays need to position themselves as the team with the best offer when that time comes. Timing is everything in baseball trades. If you wait until the trade deadline, you're competing with a dozen other teams for the same players. Prices get inflated. Bidding wars break out. But if you can identify a player now, in the quiet period before spring training really heats up, you might be able to strike a deal before the market fully develops. That's strategic thinking. That's how you build a winner without overpaying. Let's also talk about the prospect capital the Blue Jays have available. According to multiple scouting services and prospect analysts, Toronto has at least 3, possibly 4, top 100 prospects in baseball right now. Trey Savage, JoJo Parker, and Argenta Mala all rank in various top 100 lists. Keith Law, who's one of the most respected prospect evaluators in the industry, has all 3 in his rankings. That's important because it means the Jays have the ammunition to make a significant trade without completely depleting their farm system. You can afford to part with a couple of these guys if you're getting back a 27-year-old with all-star upside who's under team control. Think about the math here. If you trade away 2 top 100 prospects, but keep 1 or 2 others, you're still maintaining organizational depth while adding an impact player at the major league level. That's smart roster construction. You're not mortgaging the entire future, you're strategically reallocating resources to maximize your competitive window. And make no mistake, the Blue Jays' competitive window is right now. With Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette both potentially hitting free agency soon, Toronto can't afford to waste years waiting for prospects to develop. They need to win now, and that means being aggressive. Here's another angle to consider. The American League East is absolutely stacked. The Yankees are always competitive. The Orioles are young and talented. The Red Sox are trying to rebuild quickly. The Rays always seem to do more with less. If you're going to compete in that division, you need star power. You need difference makers. O'Neal Cruz has the potential to be exactly that. He's the kind of player who can carry you through a playoff series when he gets hot. He's the kind of athlete who makes highlight reel plays that swing momentum. Those intangibles matter, especially in October. I keep coming back to the Dave Popkins factor, because it really can't be overstated. Last year was legitimately incredible for Blue Jays hitters under his guidance. Multiple players had career years, approaches improved across the board, exit velocities increased, launch angles were optimized. This wasn't random luck or small sample size fluke, this was systematic player development showing real results. If Popkins can do that with the players Toronto already had, imagine what he could do with someone who has Cruz's raw tools. It's not hyperbole to say he could completely transform Cruz's career trajectory. There's also something to be said about the excitement factor here. Let's be honest, baseball is entertainment, and O'Neal Cruz is one of the most entertaining players in the sport. At 6'7", watching him do anything on a baseball field is mesmerizing. When he crushes a home run, it sounds different. When he throws someone out from the outfield, it looks effortless because of that arm strength. When he steals a base, you're watching someone that size move that fast, and it's just absurd. Toronto fans would absolutely fall in love with this guy. He'd sell jerseys, he'd create buzz, he'd give the fan base something to rally around. That matters, especially in a market that's been starving for a championship for over 3 decades. Now let's be realistic about the potential downsides, because they do exist. Cruz is a high-variance player. He could strike out 150 times and hit 230 with 30 home runs, and you'd have to live with that. There's no guarantee Popkins can fix the swing and miss issues. There's always injury risk with any player, and someone Cruz's size carrying that much muscle is potentially more injury-prone. The trade package you'd have to give up is significant, and if it doesn't work out, you've lost valuable assets for nothing. These are all valid concerns that any responsible front office has to weigh. But here's my counter to all of that. If you're not willing to take some risk, you're never going to win a championship. Playing it safe, standing pat, hoping your current roster is good enough, that's how you end up as a perpetual wildcard team that never quite gets over the hump. The great organizations take calculated gambles. They identify players with star potential and go get them, even if it means dealing with some uncertainty. The Blue Jays have been too conservative for too long. It's time to be bold. It's time to make a move that makes the entire league take notice. This O'Neal Cruz situation is exactly the kind of opportunity that could define the Blue Jays season before it even starts. If they can pull off a trade, get him to Toronto, and unlock even 75% of his potential, they've instantly become a more dangerous team. They've added a dimension they didn't have before. They've given themselves another legitimate weapon in a lineup that's already pretty good. And if it works out beyond expectations, if Cruz becomes the player we all think he can be, you're looking at a cornerstone piece for years to come. The connections are all there. The Pirates have a history of trading talented players. Cruz is coming off a down year, which depresses his value. The Blue Jays have the prospect capital to make a competitive offer. They have a hitting coach who specializes in exactly the kind of development Cruz needs. The fit is perfect from both a roster construction standpoint and a player development standpoint. This isn't just wishful thinking or fan fiction. This is a legitimate possibility that makes too much sense to ignore. As we approach spring training, keep your eyes on this situation. Watch for any news coming out of Pittsburgh about their plans for Cruz. Pay attention to which teams are being linked to outfielders on the trade market. Listen for whispers about the Blue Jays being aggressive in trade talks. Because if this deal happens, if Ross Atkins pulls the trigger on an O'Neill-Cruz trade, it's going to send shockwaves through baseball. And Blue Jays fans will have every reason to believe this could finally be their year. The pieces are in place. The opportunity is there. Now it's just a matter of whether Toronto has the courage to seize it. Will they make the call to Pittsburgh? Will they put together a package that gets it done? Will they bet on talent and coaching over playing it safe? We're about to find out, and I, for one, cannot wait to see how this unfolds. This is the kind of move that changes franchises. This is the kind of player who becomes a legend if everything clicks. O'Neill-Cruz to the Toronto Blue Jays. It makes too much sense not to happen. So what do you think? Are you on board with trading for O'Neill-Cruz? What package would you be willing to give up to make it happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I want to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into what could be the biggest Blue Jays trade of the offseason, make sure you smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates as this story develops. This is the kind of insider information and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else, and I'll be here bringing you every twist and turn as we head toward opening day. Let's go Blue Jays!
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.